Mentalism. Mind control and magic tricks through understanding persuasion and deception. Written by Norton Raven. Narrated by Stephen Lowe. Introduction. What is mentalism? In essence, it's just like magic, only you make people believe you really have a heightened sixth sense, and that you are a mind reader and have special abilities of precognition. How do you learn mentalism? It is best to learn some simple magic tricks first, so that you have an idea of how your potential audience reacts to these newfound skills. It is better if you learn the principles of magic first before you attempt to learn mentalism, because this skill also applies to the rules of magic. Try your hand with simple magic tricks like learning how to manipulate your fingers to make objects disappear, or guessing the card that the participant hid in this simple magic trick. You can learn how to read people's expressions. Facial expressions could denote if your guess is incorrect or not. You could practice for as long as you still do not feel confident enough. Learn how to read a slight facial tic, or a quirk at the corner of the participant's mouth, and so many other nonverbal messages. Practice makes perfect. Make your debut by inviting supportive family or friends to participate. You need an assistant who would be among the crowd or group. You should develop a coded message that only you and your assistant understand. Start by letting someone from the group hide an object you provide, like a ball or a book. Ask the audience to hide it, and then you will guess where it is hidden. From kids to adults, we somehow are amazed with stage magic, mind reading, and some illusions that have been part of our entertainment since then. Although we generally call them magic, one part of it have also been known as mentalism, though mentalists who perform this art uses many other tools like hypnosis and mind control. Magic and mentalism has been around for many years, and it has indeed given us amusement and fun. For magicians and mentalists, they do not only give them opportunity to make money, but they also are able to improve their social interaction with people as well as developing self-confidence. If you desire to be one, you can, however, be a mentalist. Some skills and techniques can be learned. Though it really needs a lot of practice, mentalism is a performing art, and thus, to be able to wow your audience, you need to show them flawless skills. Performing these tricks to people gives the impression that you have the supernatural powers to know what they think, or you can do greater things that the ordinary people can't do. Thus, practice is crucial in being a magician. One useful tip in becoming a mentalist is to train with a mentor who has been into mentalism for some time. Indeed, magic and mentalism has a lot of tricks and techniques that you need to learn, and learning them with a master could definitely help a lot. Although it is said that magic is not for everyone, you can, however, try to discover if you do have that ability to be a great magician or a mentalist. The presentation of mentalists and magicians can vary. Although some mentalists have claimed that they indeed have supernatural powers like clairvoyance, psychokinesis, and the likes, some mentalists may also use subliminal methods and mind control, as well as hypnosis. Understanding what mentalism is will bring you to the most common techniques that mentalists used in their craft. Common techniques used in mentalism is cold reading, hot reading, psychokinesis, and ESP. Cold reading is where the mentalist can give details about a person, even without previous knowledge about him. Most often, this is done by observing and analysis of how a person dresses, his body language, education, fashion, gender, and manner of speech. Hot reading, on the other hand, is in contrast with cold reading, as it uses previously obtained information from a person. Most often, these information are secretly obtained, and when disclosed to the client, will give the impression that the mentalist indeed can somehow read her life. Another technique used by mentalists is psychokinesis, which is probably one of the most amazing abilities of a mentalist. Also called telekinesis, this refers to the ability of the mind to disfigure or move an object. The ability to levitate objects also falls under this technique or category. Indeed, whether it is true power or not, learning what is mentalism can be a tool for you to socialize, build self-confidence, be attractive, and be the life of the party. Chapter 1. Types of Mentalism. Mentalism is a skill that consists of 5 major categories. To become a mentalist, one doesn't need to conquer these capabilities. Though in the day they were considered as extremely real, Mentalism today is connected to stage sorcery and psychological sorcery, and is perceived as a performing art instead of superhuman accomplishments. Though there are folk who insist that they possess these capabilities, most of them are often panned by critics who always come up with the paths to disprove their so-called powers. But still, here are the 5 types of mentalism. Telepathy. The definition of telepathy, or mind reading, as it is typically called, is the transfer of information or thoughts between people by means aside from the 5 classical senses. An individual who is ready to make use of telepathy is claimed to possess the ability to read the minds of others. There are 4 accepted types of telepathy: latent telepathy, precognitive telepathy, emotive telepathy, and superconscious telepathy. Psychokinesis. Interpreted immediately, it suggests movement from the mind. Many cases of psychokinesis have been reported but have not ever been proved. They're like the other form of mentalism. It's been disproved time and time again. One famous case of psychokinesis was of a man named Uri Geller, who used to bend metal spoons through the power of his mind. He dazzled television audience with his achievements and took part in experiments into telekinesis. Extrasensory perception. This is another branch of parapsychology. More widely known as ESP, it's outlined as the clear capability to procure info by paranormal means independent of any known physical senses or reduction from their prior experience. This idea of extrasensory perception has been there since traditional civilizations. In most of the traditional cultures of the world, this capability was known as second sight, a direct line to the various different deities and gods. Precognition. This is a seriously well-liked capability, most often possessed by characters of television shows. Folks who allege to possess this capability have the power to gain info about an object, person, location, or physical event through means aside from the known human senses. Like all the other types of parapsychology capabilities, precognition has still not been proved. Skeptics say the human memory naturally has an inclination to remember coincidences more often than other non-coincidences, and therefore people have a tendency to remember more often when they were correct about a future event and forget the examples when they were incorrect. Clairvoyance. The obvious ability to gain info about an object, person, location, or physical event through means aside from the known human senses. A form of extrasensory perception. An individual recounted to have the capability of clairvoyance is called a clairvoyant. Clairvoyance, like telepathy, may also be broken down into subclasses, which are clairsentience, which is to do with touching and feeling; clairaudience, that has to do with hearing; clairscent, that has to do with smelling; clairalience, that has to do with tasting; claircognience, that has to do with knowing; and eventually, clairgustance, that has to do with tasting. Chapter 2. Mentalism and Magic Skills. If you have the skills, you can earn a full-time living from your mentalism and magic. Let me say from the outset that what I'm talking about in this article are magic and mentalism tricks for entertainment. I'm not talking about contacting people in the afterlife or casting spells for fun and profit. What I do mean by mentalism and magic, simply that magic uses sleight of hand, whereas mentalism uses sleight of mind. A mentalist may ask someone to think of a number and then pretend to read their mind and tell them that number. A magician may make an object disappear and then magically reappear somewhere else. You can specialize in magic or mentalism and still earn a good living, but you will maximize your earning potential if you can do both. 1. Working the tables at weddings and in restaurants. This is a common and for some most reliable way to make money in magic. Traditionally, mentalists do not do as well as magicians in this environment. The reason for this is that at weddings and in restaurants, there is usually plenty of alcohol flowing, and this impairs the audience's ability to follow the complex magic tricks. The earning potential is reasonable, but the work hours can be long. You should have a 5-minute routine that begins with a quick and impressive opener that grabs attention. Be prepared for rejection and heckling. None of your audience have actually chosen to see a magician or a mentalist, but have been chosen by you approaching their table. Not everyone likes magic, and some may see you as a threat, stealing attention away from them. 2. Working on cruise ships and in holiday resorts. Here you can find regular work, albeit seasonal work. If you want to go down this route, you must be prepared to find other avenues of income during the off-season. To work in this area, you need to have a full stage act. You could choose either magic or mentalism. Audiences can be tough, and you will be expected to please the crowd if you want to continue working. 3. Creating and publishing your own magic and mentalism books and DVDs. If working in front of a live audience is not for you, you could sell your ideas to other magicians. Typically, this means creating books and DVDs that teach others how to perform the tricks and the routines you have created. The earning potential varies from a few dollars per ebook to several $100s. How much you earn will depend on how many copies of your product you manage to sell. There is a great deal of competition in this area, and it can be difficult for a newcomer to break into the market. 4. Corporate magic and mentalism. Mentalists in particular can earn large incomes working in the corporate environment. For example, businesses exhibiting in large conventions spend thousands of dollars attempting to lure people over to their stands. Skilled mentalists are typically experts in presentation and audience control. A clever reworking of tricks can draw in the crowds. If you can work a message into your act, there will always be businesses prepared to pay you for delivering that message. 5. Organizing your own stage show. This is the riskiest method of trying to earn an income from magic and mentalism. But even if you do not make a big profit, you can go on to earn one. Very simply, organizing a stage show involves booking a venue and selling tickets. If you can sell enough tickets to cover the cost of putting on the show and have money left over, then you have made a profit. It is difficult to make large and regular profits this way. If things go wrong, you may well end up losing money. Only the big names can make any real money. However, putting on a stage show is a good way of getting yourself known. If you can attract an agent or use the publicity to get a job somewhere else, then it's worth the effort. Magic mentalism is fast catching on, and with online resources available that can make you a master mentalist in no time. It is not difficult to sort of graduating in mentalism. You should forget about yourself and focus on the audience, who may be friends, relatives, or coworkers to whom you are showing your newly learned skills. You have to know the mind of the people you are performing for. Unless their mind is tapped, you would not be able to manipulate them to your advantage. You should lead them on the way you are headed only by concentrating on them. Keep your feelings on the back burner for a while and feel the pulse of the audience. It would be great magical mentalism if you could tap into their inner consciousness. It can be learnt the easy way, and in no time you can be a graduate in mastering mentalism. There is no harm in tapping into somebody else's mind. Don't we do it anyway? If you know somebody intimately, can't you figure out what their problems are and how you can solve them? You could certainly chip in with your ideas and solutions that can be exactly what they might have thought of. You can be a graduate in mastering mentalism if you can think out of the box and come up with new ideas. Chapter 3. Learning magic mentalism is easy. Learning magic mentalism is very easy if you care to follow some easy steps. It has been stripped down to a more shortcut version, and magic mentalism that was the basis for jaw-dropping magic shows by pros can be replicated by novices. You can now learn magic mentalism the way it was taught to seasoned pros, adept at magic tricks. They learned from gurus who have come out with the magic secrets offered online. It is like a make-believe sort of approach where the audience thinks that the magician is endowed with supernatural powers. Instead, the magician performs the tricks by scientific methods, and there is nothing supernatural about it. What the audience is made to believe is what the magicians want them to believe. He can effectively map their minds. Magic mentalism is the age-old method used by magicians to give a feeling of the supernatural when they were just performing simple tricks. When performing in front of an audience at home, in front of relatives and friends, you need to engage in light-hearted talk. Keeping the audience in front of you engaged is the primary aim. Not only keeping them engaged is what you should do, but also carry them along with your conversation. You should plan an idea and set about their thinking process, which can be done if you are an engaging talker. Learning magic mentalism is easy, as they can be taught even to 12-year-olds, and that is the way how professional magicians learn to fox their audience. This is a common question that is often asked by a beginner magician. Learning card tricks is one thing, staging an act in front of an audience is another feat of its own. For those of you who are seeking for information, you will find some useful tips here. To perform mentalism as an art, mentalists are like artists, but the skills behind each of these professions are different. To be successful as a mentalist, there are a few principles of stage magic you have to learn, not forgetting the act of creating an illusion of mind control and mind reading. Here are some principles that are often inseparable from such a performance or stage act. 1. Presentation. Presentation, or what people call stage presence, is important. You need to learn how to captivate the attention of your audience so that they are not distracted by the surroundings. You need them to only focus on the object or hand movement that you want them to see. 2. Persuasion. Persuasion is another powerful principle. The act itself is to convince the audience to follow what you say and what you do, making them trust you as a person. Observe the way magicians talk to their audiences and answer questions. They are always ready to add humor to it so that their audiences will let their guard down and not be on high alert. 3. Throwing a smokescreen. By this, we are talking about misguiding or misdirecting your audience to something which is in fact a smokescreen. While the act is in play, you are actually doing something else in the background under concealment, but you will not want the folks to spot it. They are often misled by the performer to give their 100% attention to the smokescreen. 4. Add entertainment value. Some tricks can look gory, such as chainsawing or even body piercing, but you will realize that the shows are never without funny, interesting acts like starting with card tricks or simple magic tricks. These are important to warm up your spectators. Mastering magic and mentalism. Things to remember. Magic is something mysterious that catches everybody's attention, be it young or old. Mentalism is one area of magic that is extremely interesting and mind-boggling. People across the world have been amazed with the talent showcased by skilled mentalists like David Blaine and Chris Angel. For it comes as no surprise that many want to hone this talent and learn the amazing mind control tricks that are performed by magicians. However, as you may have already gathered, it is not that easy to master mentalism, but fortunately, there are some things that can help you learn this amazing skill. Remember that patience and determination is a must if you really want to learn this challenging yet fascinating art of mentalism. It is important for every young magician to keep the following things in the back of the mind when learning mentalism. As you must be well aware, mentalism is the area of magic that uses tricks to impress and fascinate the spectators. When you start learning mentalism, it is a good thing to begin with a simple mind trick rather than aiming for the complicated ones. Take it slowly and move on to the complex tricks once you gain the basic skills and adequate confidence. It is said that persuasion is the key to successful mentalism performance. One thing that you will need to inculcate in you while learning mentalism is proper communicative skills. Although some tricks may be simple to perform, you will need to persuade your audience in a certain way in order to get a great trick delivery response. If you were to perform mind reading or mind control tricks in front of an audience, then it is essential that you look the part. You will need to build in fluff in your conversation so as to persuade your spectators. A good mentalist shall talk and present tricks in such a way that makes them very believable and realistic. It is also a wise option to mix up your routine with some card tricks. Card magic tricks have been around as long as magic has been around. Spectators are quite familiar with it, but they can still be fascinated every time you perform tricks with a deck of cards. Mind reading is an essential part of learning mentalism. In the initial stages, the tricks that you will learn would focus more on your persuasion and presentation skills. Mind reading is what makes this area of magic different from the rest, which is exactly why people are fascinated by it. Misdirection is an important part of mastering mentalism. It is crucial that you master concealment and misdirection, because only then would you be able to draw the attention of your audience wherever it is that you may prefer. Chapter 4. Mind reading techniques and tips to become a mentalist. Magic and mentalism always amazes people, young or old. Most often, we are amazed by how magicians and mentalists perform their craft or do their mind-reading techniques. We always have that excitement to learn how to do it too. But as they say, magic is not for everyone. So if you are interested in mentalism, not as an audience but the performer, of course, you need to practice, practice, and practice. Mind reading is one of the amazing techniques of magic and mentalism, together with levitation, of course. Even if it involves a simple card reading or giving a stranger the idea that you can read what's on his mind, mind reading always amazes people. Of course, if you want to learn the techniques and tips of mind reading, you need a lot of time to practice. If you intend to do mind reading as part of your entertainment stunt, it will not just happen right there and then. If you want to become like those famous mentalists, you have to learn the trade and learn to do the mentalism effectively. Here are some tips that may be useful to help you develop that great personality of a great magician. To be able to perform mind reading, you have to be a keen observant and you must develop your mental acuity. One of the mind reading techniques that is commonly used in mentalism is reading the person or a stranger according to how he moves, or the way he dresses, or the way he responds to your questions and comments, or just being able to deduce something from the fine details you see in a person. Sometimes it can even be common sense. This technique is referred to as cold reading. Although you have your techniques in your craft, it is important also to remember how the human mind works. If you want to make your audience believe that you indeed have that supernatural power to read minds or move objects from a distance, you must also have to practice mind control, and you must have a good understanding of how the mind works too. Performing magic and mentalism itself can be a science and an art. So if you want to be a magician or a mentalist, you need to have a fair knowledge of the basic science concepts too, aside from perfecting your art. Understanding gravity, force, air pressure, and many other concepts in physics can also be helpful when you develop more and more techniques in your performance. Mentalism is not just about mind-reading techniques too, especially if you are new to performing magic. You do not just master your techniques, but you also have to develop that entertainment value in your performances. To be a great magician and performer, you also have to recognize the importance of constant practice in perfecting your craft. One thing that you would not want is to have a performance that is a flop. So before attempting to entertain people with mentalism and psychic abilities, you have to make sure you have perfected your mind-reading techniques and other tools you use in your performances. Mind-reading techniques for you to try. A mind-reading technique is to be used not just for the purpose of convincing a person that you can really read his mind. It is also to be utilized in order to make certain that you are doing it correctly. Other than that, one should be aware of it so he will not risk being deceived by other people or convinced to do a particular task. Though the accuracy of mind reading is questionable, it is attested by many that though you succeed in doing it, you cannot eliminate the risk that you would be caught by the person. There are various strategies which a person may use depending on his preference. Here's a simple example of a mind reading technique. By looking into the eyes of someone, a person might know what that person is thinking of, or if he is telling the truth. In an instance, you met a guy or a girl and you questioned him or her. If the person's eyes looked up, he is most likely thinking of the possible answers to your questions. He does this by creating in your mind an image or a thing that would serve as an answer to your question. Visual people are how these people, who would provide visual words which would stand as an answer to the query, are called. If on the other hand the person's eyes look from side to side, he is probably an auditory person. An auditory person, in comparison to the visual person, uses auditory words to respond to the question. He summons up an assortment of sounds in his mind before he will identify the answer. Kinesthetic persons who are known for using kinesthetic words would have their eyes looking down while recognizing out a certain feeling or sensation which has a connection to the question. Another strategy would be to put into consideration the person's motivation and his or her next action. The said mind-reading technique for a variety of people may or may not be successful. If the person encounters a visual auditory or kinesthetic person, he may add to his strategy the usage of words which are also frequently exploited by the person whom he is talking to. By doing this, you will provide the effect that both of you share some similarities and would be able to build rapport. Getting into the mind of a person would also reward you with the knowledge of what kind of person you are to him or her. Some strategies are actually designed to achieve that. However, you should be prepared to know what he or she thinks of you. In the case of magicians, though, their strategy depends more on presentation. If they would not stage their tricks in such a manner that would enrapture the audience, the trick would be meagerly received by the spectators. So for magicians, their strategy is to practice well, and deliver convincingly their tricks. As for those who are not magicians, the same rules also apply. If they would rehearse their strategy regularly, they would be more efficient when performing the technique. Chapter 5. Becoming a Master of Mentalism. You too can become a master of mentalism if you follow some easy-to-apply steps and tips. You must be wondering how David Blaine and Chris Angel, those unbelievable feats. Those feats may be extraordinary, but behind is the adeptness at mastering mentalism that is the key to their success. Whether they are performing on stage or on television, it is magic mentalism that makes them do what they can. Mentalism is in reality an art that can be perfected with practice, and magic mentalism makes the audience think the magician is endowed with supernatural powers. Magic mentalism is like make-believe, where the magician is thought to be gifted with some extraordinary powers. But if indeed he was, then how could ordinary people learn magic mentalism? You too can become a master of mentalism if you follow some easy steps. As a magician, you need to bring in a lot of humor into the act, or else you risk losing their attention altogether. Magic mentalism is about keeping the mood light. Through light humor and jokes that would keep them engrossed, as well as in splits when you want them to be. You need to connect your audience. In a magic show, there are two aspects. There is the magician and the audience. Your target and aim would be to connect and establish a rapport with your audience. Unless you can communicate effectively, the secrets of magic and the skills you learn would be of no use. You have to egg your audience on. Make them think like you do. You have to set them thinking on an idea and then prepare them for the next one as you think about it. The audience has to sort of eat out of your hands. You should set the stage for illusions and go about it naturally. And if they counter your moves or raise doubts, your skill will be displayed the way you handle them. Chapter 6. How to become a human lie detector. Being able to tell when somebody is lying is a great skill to have. It's actually a lot easier to learn than most people realize. There are some generalized ways to tell, and some person-specific ways. You'll learn both ways in this chapter. The general specific ways are various and vague. If you can, it helps to look for these 3 or 4 different indications before you accuse the person of lying outright, or decide not to take them at their word. Face touching. When people touch any part of their face while speaking, it can be an indication that they are lying. Usually they will touch their eyes, their nose, or their lips. These will often be quick unconscious movements. Be careful though, as this may also be an indication that they are simply nervous. Another indication of lying is excessive blinking. In general, folks tend to blink more frequently. This happens when they are in a situation where repeated eye touching would be inappropriate. A politician giving a speech or testifying under oath, for example. Legs and arm crossing. When people cross their legs and their arms, it can be taken as a sign of being defensive, especially if they are standing with their legs crossed near the ankle and their arms crossed in front of them. This can be an indication of lying, or it can mean that they find what they are saying extremely distasteful. You'll need to take the context into consideration. Eye contact. When people lie, it is very hard to look somebody else in the eye and keep a straight face, so to speak. In this instance, a straight face is all their facial muscles relaxed, with no tension or twitching. The best liars can maintain eye contact while speaking right up to the point of lying, and then even they will have to look away briefly. Calibration. This is where you calibrate on an individual basis. This can be done with employees, spouses, children, anybody who you are in a relationship with that you fear may lie in the future. Just pay keen focus on any particular facial movements or body language they show when you are certain they are lying. Naturally, this means that you let a few lies slide, but this is a small price to pay for being able to read them like a book. Tells are unconscious body movements and facial tics that card players exhibit when they are bluffing. Once you have 3 or 4 tells collected, they'll never be able to lie to you again without you knowing it. Chapter 7. Actors and Mind Reading and Mentalism Tricks. I don't often get annoyed. Well, I do. But this is a thing that really quite gets to me more than normal. What is it? The continuous overuse of absolutely blatant actors on television in mentalism and mind reading tricks. You know, the sort of effects. The ones that are clearly impossible and have a cringing overreacting crowd and a dismally overenthusiastic volunteer. These people are paid actors to make the trick look real. They have to be in on the trick, otherwise the trick will not work. These sort of effects are all for the camera and cannot work to an audience who are right up close to the mentalist. Only the television audience gets fooled by the limited angles the camera lets you see. That being said, I believe there's an exception to the use of stooges in this instance. To me, an actor is someone who plays a big part in the overall outcome of the effect of the trick and is usually pretending to be a volunteer. There are usually a crowd of actors too, all pretending to be amazed by some silly levitation of some sort, when in reality, if you were there, you'd see the working behind it. This is usually some big budget movie apparatus. If I wanted to see that, I'd go to the cinema, wouldn't I? A stooge is someone who is involved in the trick, but usually behind the scenes, and doesn't broadcast their poor acting skills to the spectators, but makes the effect look utterly impossible by their clever intervening. Note the word clever. I realize some mind-reading tricks do need a stooge, but it's the overuse of actors that destroy the real creative side of mind-reading and mentalism. There is a danger of shooting an entire show with actors as spectators and volunteers and not having any real reactions. The reactions are the real magic anyway, so why take that away from an effect? I love close-up mentalism with real people. Nothing is better than an effect where the spectators are generally mystified by the mentalist. I don't personally love stooges either, but I have and always will use them when I feel the need. I'll use them to create a mind-blowing effect where the audience is completely baffled and goes away buzzing from the trick. I won't, however, use actors. Ever. I don't care if I've got a world-famous television show. I'll never water down my effects with that nonsense. Darren Brown manages without actors, so that's good enough for me. Chapter 8. Psychometry. Psychometry is the art of interpreting the psychic vibrations contained in objects, sometimes referred to as the psychic touch. It is the ability to read an object's history or the history of those who may have handled it. While it deals most often with the past, it may often reflect present states as well. It is often used in cases of missing persons. The reader can touch an object the person has worn or touched, usually an article of clothing, to get intuitive impressions of the person's whereabouts. Some common items used in psychometry are rings, bracelets, necklaces, earrings, and watches. Any of these items will hold information about the wearer, such as thoughts, their emotional state, and sufficient events affecting the person's life. Through psychometry, a story unfolds that describes not only the events of a person's life, but also how the person is feeling, thinking, and reacting to these events. In order to receive clear information, the object should belong to and have been worn only by the person getting the reading. The following exercises are very basic, but they will help you learn to develop your psychometric abilities individually and in groups. Everyone has this ability to some degree, but most of us don't focus on it consciously. With practice, you may become proficient in a very helpful tool. And as I always say, only use your gifts for the highest good. Any attempt to intrude on someone's life without their permission is not only inappropriate, but clearly an invasion of privacy. Which hand to use? The hand you use to get impressions from objects are very important. Your dominant hand gives or relays information, while your non-dominant or receptive hand receives information. Your receptive hand is the correct hand to use. The following is a simple test to find out which hand is most receptive. It is very important that you do this, as you always use this hand to receive impressions, at least until you have become so accurate that you can use either hand. For most right-handed people, the left hand is the receptive hand. For left-handed people, the right hand is likely to be the receptive hand. Or if you are in doubt or were changed from a left-hander to a right-hander as a child, the following test can be used to discover which is which. 1. Hold both hands at chest level with fingertips pointing up and palms facing each other. 2. Rub hands together very lightly to stimulate energy flow. 3. Move your hands closer together, then apart, feeling the flow of energy. 4. Whichever hand feels stronger or that is emitting stronger energy, that is your dominant hand. The other is your non-dominant or receptive hand. Always use your receptive hand in psychometry. When you are beginning your work in psychometry, always pick up or touch an object with your receptive hand. If you pick up the object with your dominant hand, you may inadvertently transmit an impression as you do. Form a habit of using your receptive hand to take things from others, and to pick up something you may intend to use. This will be a challenge as you are probably used to picking things up and holding things with your dominant hand. But this practice will help you to remember to use your receptive hand for psychometric work. Chapter 9. How to practice psychometry. As we have already learned, all objects carry an energy frequency connected to the person they are most in contact with. You can learn to interpret these energies with the exercises that follow. The first exercise is for the individual, but it is best performed with a friend from whom you can receive feedback. 1. Sit relaxed with your eyes closed and your hands in your lap, palms up. 2. Instruct a person to place an object that they have had in their possession for a long time in your receptive hand. 3. Relate everything that you see in your mind. Think of, hear in your head, and any feeling that you have while holding the object. You may pick up some thoughts, feelings, and symbols that seem meaningless to you, but keep talking as much as possible about what is in your mind, and you may be amazed at how much is relevant to the owner of the object. This technique develops your gift of feeling. It gives you the experience of learning to tune into another person's vibrations to discern what you are feeling. Sometimes, while practicing psychometry, the feelings associated with the object are vague and don't seem to bear much relevance to anything recognizable to the owner of the object. On other occasions, the opposite is the case. An intricate detail can be discerned. Some people are more relaxed and trusting, and so they get many messages immediately. Some people are afraid they will say or do it incorrectly, so they get nothing. Don't worry. You can't do it wrong. The following exercise is for a group of people. Group practice is best because you can all put an object into a bowl without knowing which object belongs to whom. In a new group setting such as this, try not to say anything that might make someone uncomfortable. Be tactful and diplomatic, but as descriptive of your thoughts, feelings, or symbols as possible for feedback from the owner of the object. 1. As discreetly as possible, everyone puts an object of theirs in a bowl. 2. Each person then reaches in and takes out an object that is not their own. 3. Hold the object in your receptive hand until you receive an impression. Sometimes I ask specific questions such as, will this person change their job or career? Will he or she find love? If so, when? Who? What lessons does this person have to face at this time? Etc. 4. Each person then takes a turn describing his or her impressions. Relate everything that you see in your mind, think of, hear in your head, and any feelings that you have while holding the object. 5. Everyone should give some kind of feedback. Feedback is what helps us to develop your skills. Dermo-optic perception. Another area of psychometry is dermo-optic perception, or sight through touch. It refers to seeing by touching the skin's surface. Some people have developed this sensitivity quite naturally, especially those who are sight impaired and must rely on touch. Everyone emits electromagnetic energy. When we tap into this energy, we can see as well as if we were using our eyes. But regardless of continuing proof that such a thing as dermo-optic ability is present in many people, arguments still abound that relate dermo-optics to telepathy and clairvoyance. Therefore, it should be mentioned that in many cases where dermo-optic perception ability was found evident in a certain person, that person was separately tested for telepathic and clairvoyant abilities. And in most of the cases, no such ability was present. Some people can distinguish colors and patterns through dermo-optic perception. Various colors have different feelings. Some have described black as sticky or clingy to the touch, while yellow was slippery and blue was found to be still more slippery, but cool to the touch, like delicate ice. Red causes great bold radiation, and according to some, is so hot that the subject immediately draws his hand away as though from searing heat. It seems that small children are sensitive to colors and can easily distinguish them merely by feel. One young mother reports the case of her 6-year-old daughter's ability to distinguish colors by touch. She shared that one day while she was wrapping Christmas presents, she asked her daughter to give her the bolt of red ribbon. Her daughter immediately pulled the right color ribbon out of the bag and repeated this with green, gold, white, and blue ribbon. She never pulled the wrong color out of the bag. With practice, we all can master the ability to read by touch. Here's an exercise to help you develop your sense of touch. 1. Prepare a bowl of lukewarm water. 2. Close your eyes and gently dip your fingers into the water. 3. Repeat this exercise for about 5 minutes at a time. At first, you may have some difficulty knowing exactly when your fingers make contact with the water, but after a short amount of practice, you will feel the tips of your fingers becoming more sensitized. Feeling textures is also a helpful means of developing dermo-optic perception. Place various specimens such as salt, sugar, sand, or other granular substances into small separate envelopes and touch each substance with the envelopes. Don't reach in and touch the substance directly. First, try to distinguish it through the paper of the envelope. At first, it may seem impossible to detect exactly what your fingertips are touching through the paper, since all of the substances are similar in texture. Here is the point of the test where you must not doubt. Trust your instincts. With patient practice, you will be able to detect through your fingertips the substances in the envelopes. Psychometry is the skill performed where information is gathered by tapping into the energy field of an object. When psychics tune into an object, he or she not only picks up the energy of the object itself, but the energies that has been placed upon it. For example, by tuning into a personal item, he or she will pick up the energy from the owner. Psychometry can be confusing because every object can be subject to a variety of energies, and psychics need to learn to focus and concentrate hard to pick up on coherent information. They can pick up a variety of energies from different people and different places from where the object has been placed. The more ancient the object is, the more energy will flow through it. A scarf worn by only one owner will be a lot easier to tune into because they will read the energies from the one owner. But only experienced psychics may tune into a stone or crystal from a lifetime of thousands of years, as this will take a lot of concentration to find detailed and reliable information. As psychometry is much about sensation of touch, discipline, powers of concentration, and visualization, it is also a useful tool for inner development, as it requires good contact with the inner self. Other forms likened to psychometry are flower reading, pendulums, and dowsing. There are different types of energy, and all vibrate at different frequencies: cosmic energy, earth energy, and human energy. Cosmic energy is the energy that is drawn upon to open him or her to tuning into an object. Earth energy is composed of matter. It is flowing between animate and inanimate objects. This is the energy used to tune into when performing psychometry. The third form of energy, human energy, is otherwise referred to as the aura. It's the spiritual body of all living things. Chapter 10. How to detect fraud. Fraud has always been a part of society. The only thing that has changed is the face of fraud. As society develops along with advances in technology, there are more ways than ever for people to take advantage of other people. The world is always balancing the good with the bad. While it may be impossible to stop fraud in its tracks, understanding what it is and how others pull it off will help to keep you safe and let's stay focused on more important things in life. A good definition is the following, taken from the Collins English Dictionary, 10th edition. Fraud is deceit, trickery, sharp practice, or breach of confidence, perpetrated for profit or to gain some unfair or dishonest advantage. It is always intentional and deceptive, usually for personal gain or to purposely damage another individual. It is a crime as well as a civil law violation. There are many ways for an individual to commit fraud. The most popular channels are mail, phone, internet, business transactions, and the computer. The web has made it very easy for individuals to hide their identity and location and use others' personal information. This particular angle has greatly increased the amount of fraudulent activity and at the same time made it very hard to detect, stop, and protect against. Types of criminal fraud include false advertising, bankruptcy fraud, false insurance claims, forgery, identity theft, insurance fraud, investment frauds, tax frauds, etc. A common thread in fraudulent activity is deception and monetary damage on the party that is deceived. Fraud is trickery because you have to prove deliberate deception and misinterpretation of the facts. You have to be able to show that a seller knew beforehand that a product was flawed or that an investment was worth nothing. Sometimes a person may not have had any previous knowledge of the deception himself and was unknowingly passing that along to you. Sometimes that is not the case. The seller had clear knowledge that the act was dishonest. Laws also vary depending on the state, so it is important to know where your state stands on fraud if you are going to take a person to court. Another complicated element to proving fraud is the fact that you are responsible for thorough investigation if you enter into a business relationship with a customer or investor. If you didn't do your homework, it can hurt your court case. The accused party can claim that you should have investigated to uncover if there was a fraudulent activity taking place. It gets even more problematic if you have signed a binding contract. Then undesirable outcomes can be viewed as remorse over the terms of the deal and not necessarily fraud. Employer fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of workers' compensation insurance. The different kinds of frauds may be in the form of underreporting the payroll or misclassifying the employees. There is a different perception made by the state's top insurance regulator about this. Those people whom employers pay a lot of money are abusing workers' compensation insurance. A California insurance commissioner points out this and is an example of fraud within the employer. Regarding this current crisis, an attorney who deals with workers' compensation issues says no one can be kept from taking the blame, but he saves his strongest defense for the workers themselves. Workers hardly have any cases of fraud. The website of the California Applicants Attorney Association reports that out of 4 million injuries reported from 1993 to 1998, arrests and convictions were minimal. It is his wish that a realization that they're still facing against insurance companies comes to both the employees and the employers. When government power was stripped from the insurance industry, insurance costs began to drop 5 years later. Because there were very little claims made, the insurance companies invested in the runaway stock market and made huge profits. More and more problems emerged as a result of 9/11. Terrorist attacks cost the insurance industry around $40 billion. And it has also closed down several companies. He supports any legislation that would make the 235 private insurance companies offering workers' compensation coverage in California. A claim would result in a rise in rate, but no claim would result in no change in rate. Those employees who are free from claim would be rewarded if Senate Bill 191, which he supports, were to be implemented. This physical therapist describes his patient's conditions as competus. This therapist believes that there is a difference between the length of time it takes a person to recover from work injuries and non-work injuries. Work-related injuries, he said, will not recover as fast as injuries that take place outside of work. This new payment system should help in keeping the names of workers' compensation patients in the book of health specialists. Treatment is seldom queried, he said, and once the paperwork is submitted, the health professionals can expect a check virtually by return post. He said you should definitely see how different this is from an HMO, where there are too many queries and where the system is so time-consuming and expensive. Everybody lies. It's a universal human characteristic. Whether you're a good person who will tell a lie not to hurt your friend's feelings, to a cheating spouse, to spies and superheroes, we lie. But we all wish no one would lie to us. You're here because you're one of those people who hate being lied to and want to know how to become a human lie detector. According to Webster's dictionary, a lie is a false statement made with deliberate intent to deceive. People lie for a variety of reasons, sometimes with nefarious intentions and other times with wholesome intentions. It could be to maintain a secret, to protect someone from harm, to protect someone's self-esteem from getting hurt, to avoid punishment, to lead someone astray, to damage someone, etc. All lies are not the same. There are different types of lies. Here are a few. Omission, half-truths, when one tells the truth but leaves out important points. Bluff, pretending to have or not have something. Poker players do this to throw off other players. Exaggeration, stretching the truth. Perjury, lying under oath or affirmation in a court of law, a serious felony. White lie, minor lie that gives comfort to the recipient. If you plan on living among other people in a society, you're going to have to commit this lie many times. Boldface, an obvious and unbelievable lie. Fabrication, giving a statement as true despite not knowing whether or not it is actually true. Noble lie, told when the overall benefit of having a lie is greater on a grander scale than knowing the truth. And the list goes on. These are some signals liars give off when lying. Pick up on these signals and you have a good chance of spotting a liar. Avoid answering your question by deflecting it with the truth. Example question: did you take my hot dog? Answer: I hate hot dogs. Why would I take yours? Stiff body movements and gestures, kept close to body. More than average sweating could also be a sign of nervousness from shyness or diffidence. Too much information. Telling too much may be a desperate attempt to get you to believe them. Unusual eye movement. This doesn't mean avoid eye contact. Truthful people also avoid eye contact from time to time. Right-handed people usually look to the left when coming up with a lie and reverse with left-handed people. Verbal and facial expressions are mismatched. Liars usually go on the defensive when asked a question. They want to convince you of their quote-unquote honesty. Liars might look away or put an object between you when asked a question. Lies come either very quickly, as they were already thinking of the answer before you asked, or very slowly, as they are having a quick mental review and coming up with the lie. Liars tend to use your exact words and phrases in the answer. Example question: did you sleep with my man? Answer: no, I did not sleep with your man. Speaking monotone. Using no pronouns or contractions. Avoiding direct answers, like politicians. Joking around with the subject to lower the tension. Their responses are usually emotionally vapid. Don't resonate emotionally because liars are always trying to convince you using logic and reason, not emotion. These are some tips on how to trap a liar. Ask leading questions. Questions that suggest the answer or contains the information the examiner is looking for. 98% yes or no answers and are never open-ended, not loaded questions. Example: did you play poker last week? Allow awkward silences into the conversation. A liar will become unnerved. Listen to the tone of their voice. High or shifting pitch voice are a good telltale sign the person is fibbing. Change the subject suddenly. An honest person will be confused, but a liar will be relieved the interrogation is over. Chapter 11. What is ESP, or extrasensory perception? ESP stands for extrasensory perception. This is also referred to as the sixth sense, or the sense beyond our normal five senses of touch, taste, hearing, sight, and smell. ESP is being able to obtain or receive information through a mental form, not our five senses. It is believed that all people have ESP abilities in various degrees. It is also believed that all people have the ability to develop their psychic or ESP abilities. Scientists now think that the average human only uses about 10% of their mental capabilities. With 90% of the mind not used, it is easy to see that ESP can be possible. Serious scientific research was first conducted by a German researcher, Rudolf Titchener. and a researcher from Duke University named J.B. Ryan. They are first to use the term ESP. Their research centered around finding evidence of ESP through scientific laboratory studies. This type of study is referred to as the study of parapsychology. ESP is used to obtain information about the future, past, and present. Even with the skepticism associated with ESP, many law enforcement and government agencies currently use ESP. It is well documented that ESP has helped solve crimes and gather information that would not be available any other way. With the overwhelming evidence that ESP does exist, and it is a very real phenomenon, further research is required. Part of the problem in continued scientific research is the disbelief and professional suicide of doing this kind of research. In the meantime, people will continue to use methods such as hypnosis, meditation, and binaural beats to develop their own ESP abilities. If you've ever wondered about the possibilities that extrasensory perception opens up, it's a good time to consider getting ESP help. You have within yourself nearly unlimited potential. The only problem is that you are the only person that can open the floodgates in order to tap into that potential. If you feel that there is so much more to you than meets the eye and are ready to explore the inner recesses of your mental abilities, there is no reason why you shouldn't get the help you need to explore ESP and what it can mean to you. Getting ESP help. Scientifically, ESP has neither been proven or disproven, yet it continues to have critics and supporters that have equally valid evidence to support their opinions on the matter. You will have to decide for yourself what you believe, through seeing as the quickest path to believing for many. Why explore ESP? What better is there in the world to explore than the inner recesses of your own mind? There is so much untapped real estate within the human brain that to even access a portion might open pathways to dreams you never imagined watching come true. Even more exciting for many is learning what's going on in other people's minds, though. This is a gift worth grabbing onto in the eyes of many. It is also a huge responsibility. ESP can help be used for a wide range of reasons, including finding lost children, locating kidnapped victims, and finding victims of all kinds of disasters. Learning control. While getting ESP help is great and developing the skill or talent is an incredible step in the evolutionary process, it is also a gift that you must learn to control. You are opening the doors to a flood of sensations, emotions, and thoughts. It can be overwhelming to say the least. You will feel as though you are in a heightened state of consciousness all the time until you learn to have some control over your ESP. How can hypnosis become ESP help? Hypnosis can help you learn to control these new sensations by entering into a state of relaxation and promoting calm thoughts. Don't pass up on the opportunity to explore the mysteries of the universe because you are afraid of opening your mind to these foreign sensations. Instead, learn to control the flood of new information coming into your mind with ESP help in the form of self-hypnosis. Realize your mind's full potential today. Chances are that you are ready to take that leap of faith and begin the process of opening your mind to the wonderful world beyond the one you've experienced. When you are ready to get ESP help, be sure to explore self-hypnosis, as this is one of the forms of help that can not only open your mind to extrasensory perception, but also learning to adjust the rate at which information comes in to avoid mental or emotional overload. Does ESP reveal the non-physical? For ESP to reveal something about the non-physical, one must first demonstrate that ESP actually exists. Since ESP has not been so demonstrated in any peer-reviewed scientific journal, since if it had been there, would be no need to have these discussions on Closer to the Truth, then the bona fide existence of ESP is still up for grabs. While there is a near total lack of evidence for the establishment of ESP, there is a lot of evidence that points in the direction that ESP doesn't exist. There has to be an actual mechanism that links the sender or the target with the receiver. Claiming that there is a non-physical mechanism that is beyond detection is a cop-out. One can claim all manner of phenomena, but when asked to put up or shut up, one just says that it's a non-physical explanation which nobody can actually pin down. As to what that non-physical mechanism is, it is just pure pie-in-the-sky mysticism. It's not scientific to a scientist. It's not acceptable to the average layperson either. It's like claiming to have an invisible friend, but not being able to convince anyone because nobody else, including the claimant, can actually see, touch, taste, smell, or hear anything tangible about this invisible entity. Okay, there has to be an actual physical mechanism for ESP. If ESP is to claim to have some sort of validity, alas, as has been more than adequately pointed out, if our brain/mind can detect ESP signals, then it must be possible to construct an artificial detector that does the same thing. Further, we can build detectors vastly more sensitive than anything the human sensory apparatus. Hence, the brain/mind can detect. Results to date equate to absolute zero. Resorting to a non-physical mechanism is a cop-out. Nothing that can't be constructed to be a physical mechanism can be independently verified. This has been Mentalism, Mind Control and Magic Tricks through Understanding Persuasion and Deception. Written by Norton Raven. Narrated by Stephen Lowe. Copyright 2018 by Norton Raven. Production copy 2018 by Norton Raven.